Welcome to our video on people whose deaths changed the world. Today we'll explore the legacies of those whose passing left an indelible mark on history. Number 5. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip, a member of the nationalist group Young Bosnia. This event is often described as the spark that ignited World War I, but the story is far more complex. Franz Ferdinand's assassination wasn't just a random act of violence. It was deeply rooted in the ethnic and political tensions simmering in the Balkans. The Archduke was seen as a symbol of oppressive Austro-Hungarian rule by many Slavic nationalists who yearned for independence. On that fateful day, the couple was in Sarajevo to inspect imperial troops. Despite warnings of potential danger, they continued their tour. The assassination attempt began with a failed bomb attack by another conspirator. Undeterred, Franz Ferdinand decided to continue with the day's schedule, a decision that would prove fatal. As their car made its way through the city, it took a wrong turn and stalled right in front of Gavrilo Princip. Seizing the moment, Princip fired 2 shots, fatally wounding both the Archduke and his wife. Their death set off a chain reaction of alliances and hostilities. Austria-Hungary, with the backing of Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia. When the demands were only partially met, Austria-Hungary declared war, pulling in their allies and enemies into what would become World War I. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand exposed the fragile web of alliances and rivalries that defined early 20th century Europe. It highlighted the dangerous mix of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism that eventually enveloped the entire continent in war. Franz Ferdinand's death reshaped the geopolitical landscape and left an indelible mark on history. Number 4. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, and how his reign and subsequent exile dramatically reshaped Iran's cultural and political landscape. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi ascended to the throne in 1941 during a tumultuous period in Iran's history. His vision for Iran was ambitious. He sought to transform the country into a modern global superpower. Through sweeping reforms known as the White Revolution, he aimed to modernize the economy, improve infrastructure, and promote social progress. These reforms included land redistribution, women's suffrage, and the expansion of education. However, the Shah's vision was not without its controversies. While modernization brought significant advancements, it also led to widespread discontent. Many Iranians felt alienated by the rapid westernization and the erosion of traditional values. Additionally, the Shah's regime was marked by political repression, corruption, and the brutal tactics of the secret police, Savak, which stifled dissent. By the late 1970s, Iran was on the brink of upheaval. Economic disparities widened, and opposition groups, including secular nationalists and religious clerics, began to coalesce around a common cause. The discontent culminated in the Iranian Revolution of 1979, a mass movement that saw millions take to the streets demanding an end to the Shah's rule. Facing mounting pressure and widespread protests, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi fled Iran in January 1979, seeking asylum in various countries. His departure marked the end of the Pahlavi dynasty and the beginning of a new era. In his absence, Ayatollah Khomeini, a prominent cleric and revolutionary leader, returned from exile to establish the Islamic Republic of Iran. Khomeini's rise to power signaled a dramatic shift in Iran's cultural and political trajectory. The new regime implemented strict Islamic laws, reversing many of the Shah's reforms and ushering in a period of conservative theocracy. This transformation had profound implications, not only for Iran but for the entire Middle East, influencing regional politics and international relations for decades to come. The fall of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and the subsequent revolution reshaped Iran in ways that continue to reverberate today. Number 3. Abraham Lincoln's assassination on American history. We all learned in school that on April 14, 1865, actor John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln during a play at Ford's Theater. Lincoln had just witnessed the end of the Civil War and was hopeful about the nation's future. However, his tragic death had far-reaching consequences, particularly during the presidency of his successor, Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who ascended to the presidency, struggled to fulfill Lincoln's vision for post-war Reconstruction. Instead of fostering unity, Johnson's policies aimed to support wealthy Southern conservatives, which led to a Reconstruction era marred by opportunism and failure. His leniency towards the former Confederates and opposition to civil rights for freed slaves created deep divisions. Johnson's ongoing clash with Congress over Reconstruction policies resulted in his impeachment, making him the first U.S. president to face such a trial. This conflict significantly shifted the balance of power, amplifying congressional influence in American politics and shaping the future of the nation's governance. Number 2. Saddam Hussein is one of the most notorious figures of the 20th century. Saddam Hussein rose to power in Iraq in 1979 and quickly established a brutal regime characterized by widespread repression and ambitious geopolitical maneuvers. One of the most significant conflicts during his rule was the Iran-Iraq War, a bloody and protracted conflict that lasted from 1980 to 1988. This war not only devastated both nations, but also entrenched Saddam's aggressive stance in the region. In 1990, Saddam's invasion of Kuwait marked a turning point. His bold move to annex Kuwait led to international condemnation and a swift military response from a coalition of forces led by the United States, known as the Gulf War. Operation Desert Storm expelled Iraqi forces from Kuwait, but left Saddam's regime intact, setting the stage for future confrontations. The geopolitical landscape shifted dramatically after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. The U.S. government, citing concerns over weapons of mass destruction and Saddam's alleged ties to terrorism, intensified its focus on Iraq. This culminated in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, a controversial and highly consequential military campaign that led to the swift downfall of Saddam's regime. Captured by U.S. forces in December 2003, Saddam Hussein was tried and convicted of crimes against humanity, including the massacre of Shiite Muslims and the use of chemical weapons against Kurdish populations. His execution in 2006 marked the end of an era, but also opened a Pandora's box of new challenges. Saddam's removal created a power vacuum that significantly altered the Middle East's balance of power. Iranian influence grew substantially, and the region saw a rise in sectarian violence and theocratic ideologies. The aftermath of Saddam's downfall continues to shape geopolitical dynamics, with reverberations felt across the globe. Number 1. Mahatma Gandhi, the architect of India's non-violent struggle for independence, met a tragically ironic end. On January 30, 1948, he was assassinated by Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist who opposed Gandhi's empathetic approach towards Muslims, especially in the turbulent aftermath of partition. This shocking event starkly contrasted with Gandhi's lifelong dedication to peace and unity. Godse's resentment stemmed from his belief that Gandhi's efforts to foster harmony between Hindus and Muslims betrayed Hindu interests. The assassination plunged the nation into profound grief, sparking widespread public mourning and violent riots. It was a dark moment for a country that had just begun to taste freedom and it raised poignant questions about the path that modern-day India and Pakistan might have taken if Gandhi's principles had continued to shape their destinies. Gandhi's death was more than the loss of a leader. It was a blow to the very ideals of nonviolence and reconciliation he championed. As we reflect on his legacy, we can't help but wonder how different the subcontinent might look today had his vision for peaceful coexistence endured.